today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I wanted to thank you for coming in to meet with me today.
You're
That's
so
awesome that
welcome.
you came. I wanted you to come in so we could discuss your child's test scores. I want you to feel free to ask me questions at any time. You can stop me at any time and ask me because it can be really confusing.
Okay.
We're going to start by going over the comprehensive test of achievement. That's what the test is called.
Okay, what is that?
The test is just the name of like the standardized test that your Alex took. The comprehensive test of achievement is an achievement test, so that can be confusing. But an achievement test is a standardized test that helps you see your child's strengths and her weaknesses.
All right.
So we won't just see where she's struggling, you're going to see where she like excelled, which is cool to see. In all content areas. So it's not just like social studies, it's all of the content that we learn in school.
All right.
And we can help her see the areas that she needs, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's areas that she just needs to work on. It can be me as a teacher. I can change up my teaching strategies and hopefully she'll learn something like even better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. I called you in so that I could help you go over the results from the test that was taken back in March.
Okay.
And it was taken over a series of days, so they weren't just like sitting at their desks for 8 hours. Like they had breaks, they could eat, they could put their head down and relax. Like it wasn't like, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought it was best to go over all the results one-on-one in person.
Okay, that's awesome. Sounds good.
Okay, so first off, the top of the test is just some basic information. So my name, the teacher name, the school, the district, Alex's name, the grade level, the test date, the student ID, and the form.
Okay.
The comprehensive test is made up of norm referenced information and criterion referenced information.
Okay.
So norm reference information compares Alex's scores to students that have taken it all over the nation. The students were all the same age and the same grade level, so we're not comparing Alex's scores to like someone who took it in 8th grade because that wouldn't be fair, you know?
Yeah.
It's mainly used to visually show you how she's doing just compared to other students in her grade.
So if she scored the same as like the norm, she's on track with like students from around the nation, is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay. So now that you understand what norm is, the top of the test shows like the different subtests which are taken from the norm.
Okay.
So there's reading, math, language, listening, spelling, science, and social studies. Is there a certain subject in particular that you want to take a look at?
Let's look at her math scores.
Okay. She actually did well on math concepts, but she did struggle with number facts and measurements. But in class, I noticed that she kind of shuts down when she doesn't get it. She gets a little flustered when she doesn't understand the actual problem. And math can be hard, I understand. So I've been trying to work with her like one-on-one because she just naturally shuts down and I don't want her to do that.
Okay.
I've been working on talking her through the math problems, figuring out the problems she was like having and showing her what the next step should be so she can like look into it more and actually understand.
Okay.
And this seems to be helping her, but some more confidence in math could probably honestly do the trick.
Yeah, I've noticed like at home when she has math homeworks, like I try to help her, but sometimes like I don't know where to start and she doesn't really know where to start. So, I mean, I feel like talking her through it can be helpful.
Yeah.
And like I feel like if I try to help her like get started, that'll be really helpful.
Okay.
But like it's kind of hard because elementary school was like a really long time ago. So
I know,
I don't remember
right?
all
I
the
understand.
things
That makes,
that I learned, but
Yeah, I feel like I hear that a lot because like it's hard to remember those things from way back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand. All right, so now that we went over the top portion, we're going to look over the bottom portion of the test. There are also, we're going to look over the bottom portion of the top part still.
Okay.
So we're still kind of on the top area.
All
There's
right.
a lot of information,
yeah,
so
there's just so
bear with
many
me
things.
Okay, so looking over the bottom portion of the top, there's some basic battery information and complete battery information. So like that's probably something you've never
Yeah, I
heard
have
of.
no idea what that is.
So the basic battery right here is looking over the basic core areas like reading, math, language, listening, and spelling, but these areas are what we spend most of our day going over.
Okay.
So the complete battery is the sections I just mentioned plus the science and social studies.
Okay.
So these batteries are intended for the school's use to see where our students are at. So it's kind of confusing. Do you have any questions?
So basically, the basic battery is the things that you spend most of the day on.
Yes.
So you don't spend most of your time on science and social studies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not part of the basic battery portion, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that's why they're factored into the complete battery.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So let's go over an example of the number items and raw scores on the top of the section still on the top area. So let's take a look at how Alex did on reading. Keep in mind that this was not taken all at once again. Okay. There were breaks. So the number of items shows the total number right here. The total number of items shows the total number of questions that were on the test, which was like 108. You see that number right there. The raw score right here shows how many Alex got right. And in this section, as you can see, she got 83 right. Compared to the national percentile, she is at the 53rd percentile. And you can see all of this stuff on the bell curve. The bell curve helps you actually like visually see it. Like this helps a lot of people. But I know her reading sounds low, but keep in mind they aren't grades, that they're scores. Okay? They aren't percentages, they're percentiles. Yeah, it can be kind of weird. The bell curve helps you visually see the average scores, and if we look on the band right here, the middle is 50, which means she was actually above average.
Alright. Can I have a copy of this?
Yes.
Because it's so
awesome,
visual.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
yeah,
I'm a
for
visual
sure.
person, so that'd be so helpful.
This copy is just for you. I'm going to give it to you a little bit later.
Okay, so is it just for reading that she's in the middle, like that she's did okay, or is it like every subject, or is that just reading?
No, yes, this is just reading.
Okay.
So scale score is a little different. So looking at the scale score, she got a 508, which relates to the testing score. So on this test, the scale score is labeled CTA, which you can also see on the bell curve, and is given by the people who actually made the test. Okay. So it goes from 200 all the way to 800, with 500 being like the mean again. So since Alex got a 508 on the reading section, so it would probably be like in here, she scored above average. So yeah. Do you have any other questions on the scale scores?
No, that seems pretty straightforward, actually.
All right, so moving on. Now we're finally going to get to the bottom portion of the test.
Stuff.
Which is criterion. So we went over the other part, now we're going to go over criterion. Criterion referenced information is taking the same scales but breaking them down even more like specifically. So these are for Alex as an individual and not a group. So let's look at a different area. So from the math section over here, under problem solving, there were a total of 44 questions. So right here you can see that. And she got 32 correct. So the cutoff point shows which area they fall in. So there's low, medium, and high, and obviously you can see like what area she falls in, which was medium. So looking down the list, is there any other subtest areas you want to look at?
It looks like she didn't do too well in social studies.
Okay, right here. So social studies can be like tricky, and each section only had 6 questions, so there wasn't that many questions to even go off of. But although it seems like she's low, she still got 4 of the 6 questions right, as you can see. So referring to the percentile band on the bell curve again, she had a 78. So some other strong scores besides this that you should probably know about was language and science. Yes. Some scores that she may need some improvement on, and also it could be for me as a teacher as well, because like I said, I could probably use a different strategy, so it's for me as well. It's consonants in the subcategory of reading. So if we go back to the category of reading, which is right here, which is consonants. But I'm very proud of her science scores. She's always taken an interest in science. Like, I can tell she's always engaged in class, and it obviously shows in her test scores.
This is like a super detailed test. Like, I'm so glad that you called me in. I've really learned a lot from like the bell curve and everything, and I definitely would not have understood it at all, like looking at it by myself. What would you say I could help her with for the consonants?
Okay, yes. So for consonants, making sure she's reading every single night. Okay, so it might sound tedious, but it's really gonna help her in the long run. But have her read aloud. Don't just like have her read independently, so you can make sure she's pronouncing the words right, and eventually her fluency will build up, and those consonants will eventually come together.
Yeah, like she reads sometimes that I'm always half listening, so I feel like if I just like sit down and listen to her more, we'll do pretty well. So, but would you say like overall on the test that she did well on the test, or pretty good, or like how would you say she did overall?
So as a whole, she did well, and she was in the medium range for most of the sections. The test can put a lot of pressure on these kids, and they need to know that. So like your test scores don't define you. And I'm not saying she did bad. She did medium, like I said, but we shouldn't really focus on the bad of the test. I was never a good test taker myself, so keep that in mind, because here I am as her teacher.
Me either.
So here's some papers that like go over the test that you can take home. There's also the bell curve in here that you can take home because you love that.
Love it.
But thanks for coming in. If you have any more questions, just shoot me an email. Don't be afraid of me. I'll always be here to talk to you. And it's a pleasure to have Alex in my class.
She loves you so much. Thank you so much for explaining this all to me. This is great.